Manners maketh man, and man maketh video game, and gamer maketh mod, and gorilla goes ooh ooh ah ah. Gamers have been modifying bits and bobs of games ever since we decided that they weren't good enough for us. Actually, it's more just because we wanted to play Skyrim as a gourd, but you get the point. Video game modding is the act of alteration to a game in order to change it in a number of ways, from funny, goofy changes to in-depth gameplay overhauls. As such, modding can often improve a game and extend its life cycle. But today, I'm here to tell you about the point when a modder becomes a mother of a beautiful baby video game. They went ahead, they made their own. So today, let's have a look at mods that turned into video games. Many would say that modding turned Half-Life into full life. I'm just gonna let myself out. Half-Life has been the catalyst for extreme alteration among the modding community ever since the game launched back in 1998. Half-Life ran on Valve's first gaming engine, the Source engine. Source is an open and malleable system that Valve encourages players to mess around with, meaning that player creations became an endless well of ever-spewing content. And it led to a lot of mods that eventually turned into games, with the most well-known being Counter-Strike, which split players up into terrorist and counter-terrorist factions, forcing them to duke it out to plant or defuse a bomb. The game started its life out as a mod, but when Valve hired the mod creators, it turned into a full game which garnered a massive player base, becoming one of the premier esports as it honed in on epic video game competition, and also gave us an in-video game cosmetic that cost $2 million. What? But when looking at games that originate from Half-Life, you also have to look at Garry's Mod, as its release onto the Steam store turned so many players into developers, as Garry's Mod simplified the tools of the Source engine so that anyone could make anything. And while it's often most known for its hide-and-seek and prop hunt modes, for a lot of young devs, it's known as their first creation tool, a modding tool made from a modding tool made from Half-Life. Hey, Second John, tell our audience what Arma is. No. Shoot. While the Half-Life Source engine was used for its ease, Arma was used for its depth. Arma became the status quo for realistic military shooters, and a lot of aspiring game designers sought to use the systems that Arma created to make their own spins on the idea. DayZ took the Arma gameplay and made it into a survival simulator set in a zombie apocalypse. The idea behind it was extremely desirable to all types of gamers, and its hardcore elements made it something that people would sink a ton of time into. Surviving in a world full of other players with varying intentions led to high-stakes interactions and combat. You never knew how another player was going to react to your presence. Yes, sometimes they would just straight up kill you, but other times they would lead with diplomacy before shooting you in the back of the head. There was nothing like DayZ, and still, since its release, nothing has really ever met its heights. But the other famous Arma mod that would be turned into a game was also known for its intriguing hook, as PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds begat the Battle Royale genre as we know it within video games. Love them or hate them, at that time, Battle Royales were a huge shakeup on the multiplayer shooter scene, as everybody was growing tired of insulated arena shooters. PUBG wasn't the first of its kind, but it was the first to really understand what it was going for. It offered that same realistic gunplay and movement that was present in Arma, and as it morphed from mod to game, added a ton of polish to boot. Parachuting down onto its map began an intense battle of high-stakes gameplay that sucked in players from around the world. While certain games like Arma and Half-Life are suited for modding, other games can't escape a thirsty community. One of the more recent examples is a mod from Bethesda's Skyrim called The Forgotten City. It was a massive undertaking and overhaul on the original game that eventually just turned into a full-fledged creation of an entirely new game in the Unreal Engine. Porting the original mod over to a new engine wasn't a straight-up process and actually required a complete redesign. In doing so, the developer Nick Pierce committed everything to making the game feel completely unique from his original mod. The dialogue was doubled, the gameplay was improved, and the setting was changed. It all led to a game which many regard as one of the best in its genres, creating a time travel mystery with tons of suspense, one in which the player couldn't put down from start to finish. There are tons of games that come from mods, as it's often a way for a developer to test out an idea without throwing everything they have at it. Some of the greatest games from the last 20 years come from these mods, and whether they're funny or just straight money, mods and the games that they create are a big piece of the gaming puzzle. Alright, that was the video about mods, but now it's time for my cool patrons, which you will respect and like. The patrons for this month are Avon, Bandwagon, Doug Merman, and Mr. Kairu. Thank you so much for being awesome patrons and supporting the channel and keeping me going every day, because if you didn't, I would probably cry. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna cry anyways.